The mockery begins. The Galactic Council sat in their high-tech chambers, looking down at the massive holographic display. They were laughing, their voices echoing through the room as they stared at the image of Earth's outdated supercarrier. It was a massive ship, old, with battle scars from centuries of service. The council leaders scoffed at the very thought of it being a threat to their mighty empire. "It's laughable," said General Thrax, a tall alien with glowing red eyes, his voice dripping with mockery. "Look at this primitive vessel. It's a relic of a forgotten age. How could anyone think this ship could challenge us?" Around him, the council members, all of them powerful leaders from different alien races, nodded in agreement. The Earth ship was nothing more than an ancient warship from a backwater world. They had seen such ships before, old, weak, and easily destroyed by the advanced technologies of the Galactic Empire. "I'll give them credit for trying," said Admiral Zethra, another alien leader, her voice cold as ice. "But this is just a futile attempt. It doesn't even stand a chance against our fleet." The other members laughed, the sound echoing throughout the council chamber. They had no reason to fear Earth, no reason to fear a world that had only recently discovered space travel. The council's fleet was the most advanced in the galaxy. They had conquered countless worlds, destroyed entire civilizations, and Earth was just another planet that would fall in line or be wiped out. The image of Earth's supercarrier flickered on the hologram, its enormous size taking up much of the screen. The ship had seen better days. Its armor was scratched and worn, and its weapons looked outdated compared to the new, sleek ships of the Council. The Council members exchanged glances, knowing that taking down such a ship would be an easy task. "We'll teach them a lesson," said Zethra, with a cruel smile. "Send them a message that their place in the galaxy is nothing. They'll bow before us." But there was something in the air, something they couldn't quite understand. The Earth ship wasn't just any ship. It was more than just old technology and rusted metal. The captain of this ship, Captain Ethan Moore, was no ordinary leader. He had trained for this day for his entire life. He knew what was at stake and was prepared to fight with everything he had. The Council, however, was too sure of themselves to realize it. They thought they could crush the humans with one swift strike. They didn't know that Captain Moore had something they had never encountered before: human ingenuity, willpower, and a supercarrier that was hiding the deadly secret. As Earth's supercarrier moved into position, the Council continued to mock it. They didn't even think it was worth sending their best forces. They were confident in their numbers, their superior technology, and their reputation across the galaxy. To them, Earth was just another easy target. But unbeknownst to the Council, the ship was preparing. Captain Moore had already made his move. His ship, old as it was ready to show the galaxy what humanity could do when backed into a corner. The supercarrier's engines roared to life, and the ship began to drift slowly into the space around the Council's massive fleet. The crew of Earth's supercarrier was on high alert, ready for anything. They knew the Council would come for them, but they had one advantage. They had nothing left to lose. Earth had already been mocked, ridiculed, and underestimated, but they would not be crushed. Not today. "Prepare to engage," Captain Moore's voice echoed over the comms, calm and steady. "We've got one shot at this. Make it count." The crew responded with a sharp "Aye, Captain." They had trained for years for this moment. They were ready to make history. The supercarrier's weapon systems powered up, each cannon and missile lock waiting for the signal to fire. But the Council continued to laugh. They were blind to the truth. They couldn't see the danger approaching, couldn't feel the tension in the air. To them, it was just a matter of time before Earth's ship would be destroyed. But Captain Moore wasn't worried. He knew this ship better than anyone. It was a battle-worn giant, but it had surprises hidden in every corner. What the Council didn't know was that this ship had been upgraded with the latest technology Earth had been secretly developing. The ship was a ticking time bomb, ready to unleash its power at the perfect moment. As the alien fleet moved into position, ready to strike, Captain Moore gave the order. "Fire." In an instant, the supercarrier released a devastating barrage of energy blasts and missiles, tearing into the alien fleet with shocking force. The council leaders gasped in disbelief. This wasn't the weak Earth they had expected. This wasn't a primitive ship. They had underestimated humanity. "What is this?" General Thrax shouted. The first blast from Earth's ship had obliterated the nearest alien warship in a single strike. The supercarrier was moving faster than they had imagined, dodging incoming fire with surprising agility. The council was thrown into chaos. The humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. And the mockery had just begun to backfire. The battle begins. The first explosion rocked the space around the supercarrier, sending shockwaves through the alien fleet. The Galactic Council had never imagined that a ship from Earth, an insignificant planet, could unleash such power. It was as if they had just slapped a sleeping giant awake. On board the supercarrier, the crew was ready. They knew this would be a fight like no other, but they weren't about to let their planet go down without a battle. Captain Moore stood tall on the command deck, watching the alien ships as they attempted to regroup. "Target the largest ship," Captain Moore ordered. "Give them a taste of what we're capable of." The crew moved quickly, following their captain's commands. The supercarrier's massive cannons locked onto the biggest alien warship, its dark hull looming in the distance. The alien ship, once a symbol of power, now seemed vulnerable, its arrogance fading with every passing moment. "Firing now," said Lieutenant Sarah Lee, a tactical officer who had trained for this day for years. Her hands hovered over the control panel, her heart racing, but her voice remained steady. The supercarrier's main gun fired with a deafening roar, sending a massive energy beam straight toward the alien ship. The beam struck with pinpoint accuracy, ripping through the alien ship's shields like paper. The vessel shuddered as its outer layers of armor cracked and exploded. The crew of the alien ship scrambled to defend themselves, but it was too late. The energy blast struck their core reactor, and in seconds, the ship was gone, a massive ball of fire and debris floating in the vacuum of space. "Direct hit," Lieutenant Lee shouted. Her voice was full of pride and surprise. "We've got them." Captain Moore nodded, but he didn't show any emotion. There was no time for celebration. The rest of the alien fleet was closing in, and they were far from defeated. If anything, this first strike would make them angrier. The Council would not take this attack lightly. "Keep up the fire," Moore ordered. "Stay focused." The supercarrier's weapons began to fire in rapid succession. It was like a storm of energy, each blast hitting its target with precision. Alien ships exploded in flashes of light, their massive hulls torn apart by the might of humanity's ancient warship. The battle was unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever experienced. The humans weren't just fighting to survive, they were fighting to prove themselves. Each explosion was a message. Earth wasn't going to bow to anyone. Not now. Not ever. But the Council wasn't going down without a fight. The remaining alien ships regrouped and began charging their weapons, sending waves of laser blasts toward the supercarrier. The energy from the blasts hit the ship's shields, causing them to flicker and spark. But the ship held strong, its hull withstanding the relentless barrage. "Shields at 85%, reported Officer Raza, the communications officer. "We need to hold them off a little longer." Captain Moore knew they couldn't keep up this level of defense forever. The alien fleet was vast, and their weapons were powerful. But the supercarrier had something the aliens didn't: the will to win. Moore had seen humanity come together before, in times of great need. Now was no different. The crew wasn't just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for Earth's future. "Bring us closer to their command ship," Moore ordered. "We need to hit their flagship." The supercarrier slowly maneuvered toward the heart of the alien fleet, its weapons firing on all sides to keep the enemy at bay. The alien ships swarmed around, desperate to take down the human ship that had already destroyed so many of their vessels. But Earth's warship was moving with an unexpected grace, its movements sharp, precise, and determined. On the command ship of the Galactic Council, General Thrax watched in disbelief. He had expected a quick and easy victory. The humans had no place in the galaxy, he thought. They were nothing more than an annoyance. But now, watching as their so-called outdated supercarrier tore through his fleet, he was starting to realize that this wasn't going to be as easy as he had thought. "This is impossible," Thrax shouted, slamming his fist against the armrest of his command chair. "How is this ship holding up? We should have crushed them already." The officers around him scrambled to analyze the situation. The data they were receiving made no sense. The humans were not only surviving, they were thriving. The supercarrier's weapon systems were firing with deadly accuracy, and the crew was operating with the precision of a well-trained military force. "They must be using hidden technology," one of Thrax's advisors suggested, his voice filled with uncertainty. "Something we didn't account for." Thrax's eyes narrowed. The humans had something up their sleeve, and it was clear that they weren't about to give up without a fight. The general felt a surge of rage building inside him. This would not be the way he lost his reputation. Not to a human ship. "Prepare to launch the full assault," Thrax ordered. "All ships target the human vessel. We will show them the true power of the Galactic Council." But Captain Moore was already 2 steps ahead. As the alien ships closed in on them, the supercarrier activated its secret weapon. A series of hidden compartments inside the ship opened, revealing advanced weaponry the Galactic Council had never seen before. It was humanity's ace in the hole, a final blow that would change the course of the battle. "Fire the hidden cannons," Captain Moore commanded. The supercarrier's hidden weapons fired in perfect synchronization, and a massive wave of destruction ripped through the alien fleet. It was the turning point. The battle that had started as a struggle for survival was now a fight for dominance. The Galactic Council was beginning to realize just how wrong they were. Humanity's outdated supercarrier wasn't just a symbol of the past, it was a weapon of the future. The counterattack. The battlefield was a chaotic mess of explosions, laser beams, and twisted metal. The once proud fleet of the Galactic Council, a force that had dominated space for centuries, was now struggling to maintain any semblance of control. The alien ships were in disarray, with many of them fleeing in panic. But Captain Moore wasn't ready to let up. He knew that the aliens would regroup, and they would come back even stronger. It was time to finish this. "Reinforce the left flank," Moore commanded, his eyes locked on the chaotic scene outside the bridge. "We need to keep the pressure on them." Lieutenant Sarah Lee quickly tapped the controls, redirecting fire to the left side of the supercarrier. The ship's energy cannons fired with deadly precision, hitting the approaching alien ships and causing them to explode in fiery bursts. Each shot was a reminder that humanity's ancient warship was not to be underestimated. But the aliens were regrouping faster than expected. Their ships, once retreating in fear, now turned with renewed fury. They weren't going to allow a single human ship to defeat them. "Warning!" Officer Raza shouted, his voice tense. "A large fleet is emerging from the nearby moon. They've brought reinforcements." It was a massive wave of alien warships, more than Captain Moore had expected. The numbers were overwhelming, and the supercarrier's weapons were already starting to show signs of wear. "Captain, we can't keep up with this many ships," Lieutenant Lee said urgently. "We need a new strategy." Moore didn't flinch. He had been in worse situations before. It wasn't the numbers that mattered. It was how they used their power. "Prepare the auxiliary fleet," Moore ordered. "Activate the cloaking device." The crew worked quickly, and soon, the supercarrier's auxiliary fleet, a fleet of smaller, heavily armed ships, was ready for deployment. These ships were designed for stealth and speed, and they were equipped with weapons that could bypass the alien defenses. "Ready when you are, Captain," Lieutenant Lee said, her fingers poised above the controls. "Release them," Moore commanded. One by one, the small ships of the auxiliary fleet slipped out of the supercarrier's shadow, their cloaking devices activated. They darted toward the approaching alien fleet, almost invisible in the vastness of space. The aliens had no idea what was coming. As the cloaked ships approached, they powered up their weapons and fired without warning. Explosions rang out across the battlefield as the aliens were hit from unexpected angles. The smaller ships moved quickly, slipping in and out of enemy formations, leaving chaos in their wake. The aliens didn't stand a chance. Their defenses were designed to fight large ships, not these nimble, unseen attackers. Each blast from the auxiliary fleet sent an alien ship spiraling out of control, their systems unable to cope with the surprise assault. Direct hits. Lieutenant Lee shouted in excitement. "We're tearing them apart." Captain Moore watched the destruction unfold before him, but he knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would adapt. They always did. "We can't rest just yet," Moore said, his voice calm but firm. "Keep them on the defensive. We've got to force their hand." But just as the battle seemed to shift in humanity's favor, a new threat emerged. The largest alien warship, which had once been the flagship of the Galactic Council, appeared from behind the moon. Its dark, jagged hull was covered in thick armor, and it was bristling with weapons. This was the Council's final weapon, and it was coming for them. "Brace for impact," Moore shouted as the massive warship locked its weapons onto the supercarrier. The alien ship fired first. A massive beam of energy shot out from its central cannon, streaking across space toward the human ship. The beam hit the supercarrier's shields with a force that made the entire ship shudder. Sparks flew from the console as the shields flickered under the strain. "Shields at 60%. Officer Raza reported, panic creeping into his voice. "Focus fire on that ship," Moore commanded, pointing to the alien warship. "We can't let them get any closer." The supercarrier's main guns roared to life, sending a barrage of energy blasts toward the enemy flagship. But the alien warship's shields were powerful, and the blasts barely scratched the surface. The alien ship was too strong. It wasn't just another vessel. It was a symbol of the Galactic Council's might, and it was now fully focused on humanity's ancient warship. "Captain, we need to pull back," Lieutenant Lee urged. "We can't keep up with that kind of firepower." "No," Moore replied, his voice full of determination. "We've come too far to back down now. This is humanity's fight, and we will win." The crew was silent, knowing their captain was right. There was no going back. They had to find a way to stop the alien flagship, no matter the cost. As the alien ship advanced, preparing for its next devastating strike, the supercarrier's cloaked ships returned, reuniting with the main vessel. The auxiliary fleet had created enough chaos to weaken the alien defenses, but it wasn't enough. They needed something more. Moore had an idea, something he had been saving for the right moment. A last-ditch weapon that would make the aliens regret underestimating humanity. "Prepare the final strike," Moore ordered. "Activate the supercharged cannon." The last hope. The massive alien flagship loomed before them, its weapons charging for another devastating strike. Captain Moore knew that the supercarrier's shields were already down to a dangerous level. If that beam hit them again, it would be the end. He didn't have much time. "Activate the supercharged cannon now," Moore ordered, his voice filled with urgency. Lieutenant Lee didn't hesitate. She punched in the sequence on the console, and the ship's engines hummed to life. The supercarrier's main cannon, a weapon long thought to be too old to be effective, now powered up with incredible energy. "Captain, we're going to need a clear shot," Lee warned. "The flagship's shields are still too strong." Moore nodded. He knew what had to be done. "Launch the auxiliary fleet," he said calmly. Lieutenant Lee's eyes widened. "Are you sure, Captain? We'll be leaving ourselves exposed." "We have no choice," Moore replied firmly. "That ship is too powerful. We need to take out its shields first. The smaller ships will distract it long enough for us to get a clear shot." Without waiting for further objections, Lee relayed the command. The auxiliary fleet, still cloaked and ready for action, slipped out of the shadows once more. Their task was clear: attack the flagship's weak points and create enough confusion to buy Moore and his crew the time they needed. The smaller ships moved fast, weaving between the larger warships and slipping under the flagship's formidable defenses. The aliens didn't know what hit them. Explosions erupted across the alien flagship's hull, distracting its weapons and throwing off its aim. The flagship fired in retaliation, but it was too late. The auxiliary fleet's assault had created the opening the supercarrier needed. "Now, Captain," Lieutenant Lee shouted, her fingers moving swiftly across the control board. Supercharged cannon ready. Captain Moore braced himself. He'd been in tight spots before, but this was different. This was humanity's last chance. "Firing now," Moore said, and with a deep breath, he watched the supercarrier's cannon unleash its full power. A blinding beam of energy shot toward the alien flagship, cutting through the darkness of space. The flagship's shields flared brightly, struggling to hold against the onslaught. For a moment, it seemed as though the alien ship might withstand the attack, but then the shields cracked. The supercharged cannon's energy was too much. The beam punched through, striking the alien warship's core. A deafening explosion ripped through space. The alien flagship, once the pride of the Galactic Council, was now a shattered wreck. Its once powerful engines sputtered and died as debris scattered in every direction. "We did it," Lieutenant Lee exclaimed in disbelief. But Captain Moore didn't celebrate. The battle was far from over. The rest of the alien fleet was still out there, and they would retaliate with everything they had. The loss of their flagship would send a message, but it wouldn't stop the enemy. Not yet. "We've only just begun," Moore said, his voice unwavering. "Prepare for the next wave. We'll fight until the last ship." But even as he spoke, Moore couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The aliens had been defeated once, but they were not the type to give up easily. He had no doubt that the Council's forces would be back with more firepower than ever before. The crew, however, was ready. They had just witnessed the true power of humanity's ancient supercarrier. They had seen what their ship could do when pushed to the limit. And they knew one thing: they would never back down. As Moore looked out at the wreckage of the alien flagship, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The Galactic Council had ridiculed humanity's outdated supercarrier. But now, the universe would know the truth. Humanity had just changed the course of the war. The Galactic Wrath. The victory was sweet, but it was short-lived. The alien flagship, now a smoldering wreck, was only the beginning. Captain Moore stood at the helm, watching as the remaining alien ships circled like vultures, waiting for their chance to strike. "All hands, brace for impact," Moore commanded, his voice steady but filled with determination. Lieutenant Lee quickly ran her fingers across the console, analyzing the situation. "The alien fleet is regrouping. They're coming in full force, Captain. We'll be outnumbered 10-1. "I'm aware," Moore said grimly. "But we have one advantage. They don't know the full extent of our power." The crew of the supercarrier had just seen their ship's potential, how it could turn the tide of battle in an instant. But the aliens still had no idea what humanity was truly capable of. That was about to change. The aliens, angry and humiliated, prepared their weapons for a final assault. The massive ships of the Galactic Council lined up in perfect formation, ready to launch a wave of firepower that could obliterate any fleet in their path. But Moore had another plan. "Activate the secondary weapon systems," Moore ordered. "Engage all auxiliary ships. We're not going down without a fight." The supercarrier's auxiliary fleet, hidden in the shadows, emerged again. This time, there would be no more games. The smaller ships, now fully armed and ready for battle, began a coordinated strike, weaving through the alien fleet with precision. The alien ships, confident in their strength, didn't immediately react to the sudden attack. But soon, they realized their mistake. The human ships weren't the primitive, outdated vessels they had once mocked. They were deadly, precise, and faster than any of the alien commanders had anticipated. Explosions erupted across the alien fleet as the auxiliary ships fired laser blasts and torpedoes, hitting their targets with surgical accuracy. The aliens struggled to regroup, unable to track the human ships as they darted through the chaos. "Captain, the enemy flagship is targeting us," Lieutenant Lee warned, her voice tinged with panic. Moore didn't flinch. "Prepare to counter," he ordered. "We need to hold them off until our backup arrives." But before the aliens could launch their final strike, the supercarrier's secondary weapon system came online. The ancient weapon, a relic from humanity's past, hummed to life. It was more powerful than the alien ships could comprehend. With a single shot, the supercarrier unleashed its wrath on the largest alien battleship. The blast hit its mark, and the enemy ship's hull cracked under the force of the impact. It exploded into a cloud of debris, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The remaining alien fleet faltered, their morale shaken by the destruction of their most powerful vessel. The remaining ships hesitated, unsure of how to respond to this unexpected turn of events. Humanity's supercarrier had proven to be more than just a relic. It was a weapon of mass destruction, and it had the power to shift the balance of the entire war. "Keep pushing," Moore said. "We've got them on the ropes. Let's show them that humanity is not to be underestimated." The remaining alien ships, now scrambling to recover from the devastating blow, began to retreat. The tide of the battle had turned in humanity's favor, but Moore knew that this victory was only the beginning. The Galactic Council would not give up easily. The war was far from over, and the aliens would come back stronger, more determined to crush humanity. Still, as Moore watched the alien fleet retreat into the distance, a small but fierce smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Humanity had just delivered a blow the galaxy would never forget. They had proven their power, and the aliens, for the first time, understood that humanity was not a force to be mocked. The real battle had only just begun. The enemy's last stand. Captain Moore stared out into the vast emptiness of space. The alien fleet, now broken and in retreat, seemed to have finally recognized the might of humanity's outdated supercarrier. But Moore knew this wasn't the end. It was only a temporary victory. "We've hurt them, but we haven't broken them," Moore muttered under his breath. He wasn't a man to celebrate prematurely. Lieutenant Lee was standing beside him, her eyes scanning the data on her console. "They're pulling back to regroup, Captain. But it's not over yet. The Galactic Council will send everything they have to crush us." Moore nodded grimly. The alien forces were like a wounded animal, dangerous and unpredictable. It wasn't just about the battle. It was about sending a message. Humanity was not afraid to fight back, and the Galactic Council's arrogance had cost them dearly. Suddenly, a blip appeared on the radar. It wasn't one ship. It was hundreds. "Their reinforcements are here," Lee said, her voice tight with tension. The alien fleet had arrived in full force, bigger and more menacing than ever. Dozens of new warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than the last, emerged from a nearby nebula, their weapons charged and ready for revenge. "We've seen their strength," Moore said coldly. "Now, they'll feel ours." The supercarrier, though battered from the previous battle, still stood strong. The crew had proven their resilience. Moore turned to his crew with a steely resolve in his eyes. "All hands, prepare for battle," he commanded. "They think they can overwhelm us, but they've forgotten one crucial thing. We don't back down. Ever." The alien ships closed in, their weapons firing without hesitation. Lasers streaked through space, narrowly missing the supercarrier as Moore gave the order to counterattack. "Fire the main cannons," Moore shouted. The first blast from the supercarrier's main weapon tore through the void, striking the closest alien ship with incredible force. The blast sent the alien vessel spinning out of control, and it exploded in a burst of light, its debris scattering across space. But the alien forces were relentless. They came at the supercarrier from all sides, launching wave after wave of fire. The ship rocked with each hit, but it held firm, its advanced shields protecting it from the brunt of the attack. "We need to hit them harder," Lee said, her hands moving quickly over the controls. "They've got too many ships. We can't take them all down at once." Moore's mind raced. The answer came to him in a flash, something humanity had never done before, but something that would shift the tides of the war once again. "Activate the secondary weapon systems," he ordered. "All auxiliary ships, form up. We're not going to fight them head-on. We'll strike from the shadows." The auxiliary fleet, a collection of smaller, more nimble ships, emerged from behind the supercarrier, their stealth systems engaged. They scattered across the battlefield, darting in and out of the alien fleet, firing precision strikes that crippled key ships. The aliens, caught off guard, struggled to track the agile human ships. The enemy flagship, a colossal vessel that had once been thought indestructible, loomed in the distance. It was the heart of the alien fleet, and if it fell, the rest of the alien forces would lose their will to fight. "Target the flagship," Moore ordered. "This ends now." With all the power the supercarrier could muster, they fired one final blast. The beam of energy tore through the heart of the flagship, shattering its hull and sending it into a catastrophic spiral. The remaining alien ships scattered, no longer organized or ready for battle. Victory seemed within reach, but Moore knew better. The Galactic Council would not give up easily. They would send more ships, more forces. This battle was far from over, but humanity had already proven that it could stand its ground. It would fight with everything it had, no matter the cost. "Prepare for the next wave," Moore said, his voice unwavering. "The Council won't quit until we're nothing but dust. But we're not done. Not yet." As the alien forces retreated again, the crew of the supercarrier stood tall. Humanity had dealt another blow, but the real test was yet to come. The battle for the galaxy had only just begun, the ultimate reckoning. The war had raged on for what felt like an eternity. Humanity's supercarrier had endured, and its crew had fought with everything they had. The alien forces, once confident that they could crush humanity, had now learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the power of Earth. But Captain Moore knew that the final battle was coming, the one that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The Galactic Council had regrouped, and now they were bringing their full might to bear on Earth. "We can't keep fighting like this forever," Moore said, his voice grim. He paced the bridge of the supercarrier, looking at the tactical display. The alien fleet was closing in. This time, there were no more surprises, no more tricks. It was do or die. "Lieutenant Lee, status report," Moore asked, his voice sharp. Lee's fingers flew across the controls, her eyes never leaving the screen. "They're coming at us in full force, Captain. This is it. The final strike." The alien fleet had formed a massive battle formation, thousands of ships arrayed against the supercarrier. Each one was armed to the teeth, ready to wipe humanity off the map. The Galactic Council had sent their best, their most powerful warships, and this time they would not make the same mistake of underestimating the humans. The supercarrier's crew had fought bravely in the past, but now they would face their greatest challenge. The alien forces were relentless, and there was nowhere to run. But Moore was unshaken. Humanity had survived this long, and they would continue to fight. He had learned something from the previous battles. Strength was not just in firepower. It was in strategy, in unity, and in the will to never give up. "All hands, brace for impact," Moore commanded. The first wave of alien ships charged forward, their weapons blazing. The supercarrier's shields flared brightly as they absorbed the initial barrage. The ship shuddered under the assault, but it held strong. Moore had no doubt that the alien fleet would try everything to break them, but Earth's supercarrier had already shown its resilience. "Return fire," Moore shouted. The supercarrier's weapons responded with brutal force. The main cannons roared to life, sending powerful energy blasts at the oncoming alien ships. The beams tore through the enemy fleet, hitting their hulls with precision. Several ships exploded in a burst of light, their remains floating in the vast emptiness of space. But the alien fleet was not deterred. They regrouped and launched a second wave, this time with even greater numbers. "They're throwing everything they have at us," Lee said, her voice filled with urgency. Moore's eyes never left the screen. He was calculating the odds, reading the enemy's movements. He knew that the key to victory was not in raw strength, but in outsmarting them. "Activate the phase shields," Moore ordered. "Prepare the auxiliary fleet for evasive maneuvers." The phase shields, a last-ditch defensive measure, flickered to life around the supercarrier. The shields bent space-time, causing enemy weapons to miss their mark. The auxiliary fleet, smaller but faster ships, darted around the battlefield, drawing the alien fleet's fire away from the supercarrier. For a moment, it seemed like the tide of the battle had shifted. Humanity had taken control of the situation. The aliens were no longer as confident, no longer as sure of their victory. Then came the ultimate test. The alien fleet's flagship, the largest and most powerful vessel in their armada, advanced toward the supercarrier. It fired a massive energy weapon, one that could destroy entire planets with a single shot. It was the Galactic Council's last weapon, their final hope to end the conflict. "Brace for impact," Moore ordered. The blast struck the supercarrier, sending shockwaves through the ship. The crew was thrown to the ground, and alarms blared as the hull groaned under the strain. But the supercarrier's core held strong. The shields held. Humanity's warship was still standing. "Return fire. Focus everything on their flagship," Moore commanded. With everything left in their arsenal, the supercarrier fired its most powerful weapon, a weapon that had been hidden for years, a secret weapon built to end the war once and for all. The beam of energy tore through the flagship's shields and struck its core. The flagship erupted in a blinding explosion, disintegrating into nothingness. The alien fleet scattered, no longer unified in their assault. The Galactic Council's hopes had been dashed in an instant. Humanity had won. The supercarrier stood tall in the silence of space, battered but victorious. The crew, though exhausted, cheered in relief. The battle for the galaxy had been fought and won, and humanity had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could triumph. Captain Moore looked out into the stars, knowing that this victory would resonate across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had learned that humanity was not to be underestimated. They had learned that when humans wielded their ancient warships, no force in the galaxy could stand in their way. "This is just the beginning," Moore said quietly, his voice filled with determination. "The galaxy has been warned.